There's not that many universities that have research vessels.
This is the most unique class I've ever taken.
It's a lot more exciting and kind of interesting because you actually get to work on something with a real application.
This class is actually amazing. It's more focused on me and what I think, my ideas.
I've taken a previous course in ocean science, and just in general, I think that it's a very fascinating field and wanted to learn more about it.
You know, what I love about oceanography is the chance to go to sea and do research. I've always wanted to have the chance to develop a class that's experiential, that gives students the opportunity to learn hands-on. I'm super excited that we can partner with the Inner Space Center to invite K-12 educators and classrooms on board through telepresence.
Hopefully spark that inspirational light bulb moment in someone.
Just very exciting stuff. I expect to create lifelong memories is the simplest way to put it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Endeavor Live. My name is Holly Morin, and I am the Manager of Education Outreach at the Inner Space Center at the University of Rhode Island's Graduate School of Oceanography, and I'm so excited to be your host yet again as we continue our series of Endeavor Live broadcasts. Soon we're going to be connecting live to the ship, and we actually have a whole host of guests this evening for our 5 p.m. live broadcast, so I'm so excited again to bring all of these connections to you all. We'll be hearing from the ship and diving into some of the different activities and technologies they've been working with today. And we actually have a scientist also joining us from shore, from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, to talk to us a little bit more about those technologies and some of the different research that he is involved with as well. However, the key to these conversations is to bring you all on board as well. So your comments, your questions are super important to the success of today's program. So what you're going to do there is you're going to go ahead and type in your comments and questions into the chat box if you're in YouTube, or in the comment box if you're watching through Facebook, and we'll engage with you all and get to as many questions as possible. To get that ball rolling, though, let's see, where are you all tuning in from? So go ahead, let us know your city, your state, your town, wherever you're watching from tonight. Let us know, type it in there, and I will check back in with you all in just a moment. While you're doing that, let's talk real quick about how we're actually connecting. We're using something called telepresence, and it's a remote connectivity that we've actually all gotten really good at using these last couple of years. But at the Inner Space Center, we're doing a little bit more than just using that connectivity to do a Zoom call or to have a Google Meet. We're really pushing the boundaries of telepresence and connecting to ships while they're out at sea doing active oceanographic research and deep sea exploration, and connecting individuals, scientists, managers, also the general public on shore to those activities, so they're also really active participants in each cruise. Now we can stream live ROV, remotely operated video streams and data, and there's audio channels, but now we're looking to the future of, could somebody on shore actually navigate, control an ROV? Could they make the manipulator arm or other sampling systems work when they're remotely on shore and not actually on a ship? And then there's tons of data that can be shared and manipulated or worked with from shore coming from the ship as well. All righty, so it looks like we don't know where you all are coming in from today, but that's all right. It looks like we got Dana, though. Dana's from Falmouth. I appreciate that, Dana. And that's where actually I got married. So go ahead and typing those in if you'd like. Let us know where you're all tuning in from, and we will get your questions going soon as well. Even with all of these different technologies, of course, ships are really important. They're the way that scientists and engineers get out to conduct the research. That's really important. And Endeavor is actually the University of Rhode Island Graduate School of Oceanography is a 185-foot research vessel. She spends over 200 calendar days a year, so over half the year at sea. And GSO has had her since 1976, and she's actually conducted more than 650 cruises and traveled more than 1 million nautical miles. And so supportive science. So she's operated in all different parts of the Atlantic, the Mediterranean Sea. She's been to Africa, off the coast of Africa, Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. And then she's actually gone through the Panama Canal and reached the Pacific and been out as far as Easter Island and Hawaii. So a pretty wide swath of the ocean that Endeavor has covered. She usually carries a crew of 12 and can accommodate up to 18 scientists and technicians. Right now, she's actually carrying a suite of scientists and technicians, as well as 5 URI undergraduate students that are part of Dr. Melissa Ullman's CSI Oceans URI Honors course. And this class is one that explores ocean science and technology. You kind of saw that in the intro, but the part that makes it really unique is that it is experiential. The students are out at sea and they're out at conducting ocean research, and it's actually this expedition is a requirement of the class. So what I really want to do now is connect us live to the ship. I believe we have Dr. Ullman there, who is connected and can say hello. It's been an active day at sea, and I know that you all do a lot of work. Hello, good evening, Dr. Ullman. Why don't you go ahead and say hello to our audience and let us know some of the activities. Give us an update on what you all have been up to, maybe since noon, actually, when you're bringing that mooring still in, or it just had come on board.
That's right. So I'm Melissa. I'm the chief scientist on board the Endeavor for this cruise. I'm also the instructor for the CSI Oceans class. And we are out at just beyond the shelf break, about 150 miles offshore or so. And we are now have just completed a pretty full day's work. We have picked up bioacoustic and sediment trap mooring from the subsurface. And so earlier this morning, there was an acoustic release that allowed it to be released from the bottom from a connection that was around 2,700 meters deep, anchored to the seafloor. And so that ball that you're seeing in the image right now rose up to the surface. That's a buoyant syntactic foam ball with some instruments attached. And they were able to hook that and bring it around to the back of the ship and just bring every piece of equipment on board in a big long chain that extended down to the seafloor, as I said.
That is great. And then there were other instruments, or you were hoping to put out other instruments when it gets redeployed. And I think you had some biodegradable plastic discs that you were going to put out as well.
Oh, yeah. I think they're in that box over there. Jess is going to pass them to me. So yeah, tomorrow morning, we're hoping to turn that mooring around. So it's actually all set, ready to go back out in the morning. We're just hoping for a good weather window. And we'll be redeploying the same instruments that were on there and adding what's called a UVP, an underwater vision profiler, which is going to take images of the small organisms and particles in the mesopelagic. And my students are doing a project on plastics in the ocean. And one of the things that they have focused in on is the idea of biodegradable plastics, plastics that can truly biodegrade in the marine environment. And there really are not very many of them right now. And they have a type of plastic that we've been working with, which is called PHB, polyhydroxyl butyrate. And this is a plastic that's actually made by microbes and thus more easily broken down by microbes. So to the science community's knowledge right now, this is the best candidate for a truly biodegradable plastic. So they're going to be deploying these discs at different depths on the mooring, and there's 2 different treatments. And then we'll be collecting that, we hope, in the summer in order to sequence the communities that are on those plastics and to measure how much they've degraded over that time.
Excellent. And I know you mentioned the students, and I know we have a couple there, I think, waiting to join the broadcast with us. We'll bring everybody on board here. So we have 2 students. Looks like we have Nora and Zaria that are joining us from in that main lab space. And actually, one thing to note with Endeavor is that main lab space where Melissa and then the 2 students are actually standing, it's about 700 square feet. And it's the main workspace where a lot of different activity happens. And it can kind of be customizable to whatever you may need to be doing while you're out at sea. I know in the past there's been microscopes and workbenches, and we've had our stuff in the Inner Space Center there. Melissa, I didn't know if you all did anything specific to the lab space this time around.
Well, we strapped our instruments to it. We're working. We've got a bunch of laptops out. Nothing really different than
The normal, yeah.
than the usual.
All right, so Nora and Zaria, the ocean plastics project that you were working on, let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, say hello to our audiences, introduce yourselves.
Sure. Hi, so my name is Nora Reyes. I'm a student at the University of Rhode Island, and I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm a senior. And so part of mechanical engineering, I'm into environmental engineering and also studying sustainability.
Hi, I'm Zaria. I'm also a student at URI, and I'm a sophomore, and I'm majoring in wildlife and conservation biology.
Great. And then so you, from what I understand, you had to pick a topic that maybe not a problem, for lack of a better word, or an issue of interest, and think of potential solutions and maybe interview people. And then also, I know you created a communications video. And so what topic did you all pick? And what are your action items that you're hoping to implement?
Yeah, so for our project, Dr. Oman had us on the plastics team. So we are not only studying the way that plastics are going to degrade into microplastics and smaller particles on this ship, but we actually participated in a couple of beach cleanups, a few and I think that we're going to also do. So we did one already, which was really neat. We found a lot of rope, we found a lot of cloth and a bunch of different plastics, and then we are planning to continue with that project and hopefully take it to the URI campus. So if you want to talk more about that part.
Yeah, we're also thinking about organizing beach cleanups for students on campus right now. And also our dining hall has a problem where we're really using plastic utensils and just throwing them out due to the pandemic and how it kind of changed the food system there. We want to take biodegradable plastics that people can reuse and carry around with them to the dining hall, so that way they're not throwing out as much plastic.
Right. Yeah. Because right now there's so many plastic forks and knives that are just single use, and then you throw them away, and that's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So
yep, it really compiles to be a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say it piles up, and I think this is fantastic that you guys are looking into this further and exploring potential solutions, or at least to raise awareness. And beach cleanups are always well received, and there's actually a tracker that you can use on your phone to mark where you may have found marine debris, and managers are using that data to help better manage the issue. So something for folks at home to potentially look into. I want to remind everybody to definitely ask questions as we're chatting here. I have plenty of questions that I can keep asking, but we definitely want to bring our audience on board. So as you think of a question, type it in there, and we can and present it, or we can have our experts here answer it. And speaking of experts, we actually have one more individual to bring on board into this conversation. So Dr. Dana Yerger is at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and he works in the same works on the same topics as, or works with technologies that are exploring the ocean twilight zone to better understand it. So the mooring that Melissa mentioned that had been deployed was one of those tools that's being used. The minions that Melissa has also been working with, the roam tags, these acoustic tags, and the Mesobot is another autonomous vehicle that is also used to explore the ocean twilight zone. So if Dana would like to join us in this conversation, Dr. Yerger, do you want to go ahead, say hello to our audience, introduce yourself and kind of what you do at Woods Hole?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Yerger. I'm a senior scientist at Woods Hole Oceanographic. I've been there since the early 80s, working on remotely operated and autonomous vehicles for science, of course. And I've been there since I finished my postdoc at MIT. Then I went to Woods Hole and started working there. And so the initial part of my career was building robots to study the seafloor. Okay, so things like the ROV Jason you may have heard of. Okay, but also autonomous vehicles like Abe and Sentry. But about maybe 6 or 8 years ago, I became interested in the midwater ocean and how robots can contribute to a better understanding of that. And so that's what I've been working on since then.
Great, thanks. And then this midwater area, I know we often, or gets referred to now as the ocean twilight zone. Melissa, what is this region and why is it so important to study?
Sure. The ocean twilight zone is the region that's dimly lit underneath the sunlit euphotic layer where phytoplankton grow down to nominally about 1,000 meters depth. And it's the region where lots and lots of organisms in the ocean do a diel migration every day. So they may be vulnerable to predation by visual predators that use eyes and use sunlight to be able to track them. And so what they do is they will dive down into the deeper parts where it's not as brightly lit in the twilight zone, and that's a refuge for them. That's an escape during the day, and then at night, because they want to feed on the very productive phytoplankton-rich surface, they swim back up to the surface every day, and this really constitutes the world's largest animal migration.
Great. Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't think people it's interesting because there's so much biomass that's there, yet this region is so unexplored that you have so much there to know about, but there's so little that we do know about these animals and what they're doing. Dana, when it comes to the technologies that you've worked with to explore that mesopelagic region, what are some of the things or the discoveries that you've seen, or some of the questions that you have?
Well, it's great to walk into an environment where there's been over a century of study of the midwater ocean. Certainly, we don't mean to diminish the work of the people who came before us, but there's a lot that's not known, and specifically, a lot of the work that we're doing is either directly or indirectly trying to understand the questions of how does the twilight zone function, and specifically, to what degree is it part of sequestering carbon from the atmosphere into the deep ocean? So, everybody knows that rising CO2 in the atmosphere is a man-made contributor to climate change. Well, the ocean is buffering that to some extent. Okay, in that when that CO2 is absorbed in the ocean, photosynthesis takes place. Animals then can consume the phytoplankton, and then through all kinds of many different mechanisms, okay, everything from defecation to migration, that carbon tends to move down into the deeper parts of the ocean, where, at least on the time frame of our lifetimes, it's probably sequestered. Okay.
Yeah.
But really, no, we're still struggling to quantify that, okay, and to understand all the complexities of that. For example, there are mechanisms that take the carbon to depth, and there are other mechanisms that probably bring it back up, okay? I'll give you my favorite example. When a whale poops, it usually floats, okay? So literally, that's a mechanism, just to give you one you'll remember, that's a mechanism where carbon can go from depth to back to the surface, okay? So there's this rain of, quote, marine snow, which of course was named by Rachel Carson, the great ecologist who changed all of our lives. And so that's part of the carbon flux, and Melissa's an expert on this. Actually, I should be turning it over to her. But she'll tell you we need to quantify that. We need to understand how that contributes to the regulation of climate and how our activities may be changing it.
Yeah, Melissa, do you have more that you want to add to that?
Sure. No, that I wanted to mention that the mooring that we brought up today has instruments that are looking at precisely these two topics that we just covered, the diel migration of animals and the distribution of the larger animals through the acoustics instruments, and then the sediment trap and the minion deployment. We also deployed a minion today, and we're going to wait for that to pop up in the early hours of the morning. So just a short deployment, but that's another type of robot that is designed to be able to quantify this carbon flux and marine snow rainfall.
Alex, actually, if you want to bring up the video that we have of the minions, that will actually show everybody what they look like. And then I know we actually have a picture too of how you guys will then retrieve them with. Now, did you guys end up using the net, Melissa? Is that how you guys have been picking them up, even though it's dark out? I know you can see them flashing, but are you still using a giant net to pick them up?
We will be, yeah. So we deployed one this afternoon, and we'll be picking it up. It should be popping up and calling in at about 4:30 this morning, and we'll have a little bit of the night still to be able to go recover it.
Excellent. Yeah. I want to remind everybody to type in some questions if you have them for all of our experts here. Lots of fantastical insight being offered. And basically any question you might have about ocean science, technology, the ocean twilight zone, life on a ship. This is always a good one. So Nora and Zaria, this is, I think, your first time out at sea. I know that Dana and Melissa have been to sea before. So how has that experience been for both of you out on the ship this first time?
So for me personally, this is definitely the longest I've ever been out on a boat, especially in the ocean specifically. And so our first day, I think we both can relate to this. It was really interesting because we were definitely super seasick, just to be straightforward.
Yeah. All right.
But it was, I mean, today we're doing a lot better and we're having so much fun and it's beautiful. So yeah. That's kind of our update.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. I think that this is great, though, in that you didn't feel so hot yesterday, and it was very choppy weather, and you were transiting, so you're kind of rolling through it all. But here you are, topside and smiles, and that's a testament to you've got your sea legs. That's what we say, right? And you power through it, and you've been part of all the different activities. What was a lot of different things today? You guys actually did a net tow, I think, for microplastics, right?
Yeah, so we did a net tow. We did a CTD. We're lowering that to get data on, I think it was conductivity, temperature, and depth, which is really cool. And yeah,
I think we did like a few minutes ago, we put a net into the water and kind of wanted to see like what microplastics we picked up, and we actually ended up picking up a lot of zooplankton and a bunch of other organisms too.
There you go. Yeah, that's great. So this is all these experiences are so important. And even if oceanography isn't something that you necessarily thought you might focus in, all of this different research experience and technical experience is something that could definitely be applied later. And Dana, this is something you were chatting with us about. If we're talking about these students and suggestions or advice for people that might be interested in oceanography, what might you tell them?
Well, oceanography is built on a foundation of the basic sciences and fundamental engineering. Okay, so my first advice to young people is to make sure that they take care of their education in those areas. Okay, so if you're interested in ocean science, that really means that you start with physics and chemistry and biology and mathematics. Or engineering science, and you start building your credential in those fundamentals, and then you move into taking those skills and translating them, for example, physics is a good one too, and then you translate that into different problems in oceanography. Okay, so I think that's very important if you really want a career in the ocean sciences, to build your foundation in the scientific or engineering fundamentals, and then move into applying those basic skills to the ocean. That's a very important, and you can study those fundamentals anywhere. Okay, at any good university. Okay, and then oceanography itself generally is something you study in earnest in a graduate program. Okay, so no matter where you're studying, you can prepare yourself for a career studying the ocean by starting with your fundamentals. So that's sort of the first thing I try to tell students.
Yeah, and I think another point that you made there that's really important is that you don't have to necessarily be in a school that's coastal. There are a lot of really great programs, even actually just marine science programs that are located at inland universities. I actually have a couple of friends that I went to grad school with that are now professors in biology, and they're in the interior of the state, and they still do active marine science programs. They just take their courses elsewhere. You don't have to be in one location to study it. And I actually, my graduate research, I was in Texas, but I studied sea lions in Alaska. So just because you're in one spot definitely doesn't mean that that's where you have to be to do your research or conduct certain activities. Melissa,
can I just follow up on that? Because
yeah,
it used to be that all the oceanographic ships were kind of rigidly attached to their home institutions. So Woods Hole, URI, Scripps, UW, University of Washington, they had their own ships. Okay. Well, we still have those ships, but they're now operated in a consortium. And those vessels are available to researchers at any U.S. Institution. So if you write an NSF proposal, you're a professor in Kansas or Nebraska, and you write a winning NSF proposal that needs time on a ship, you'll get one. You'll get that time. So the vessels are operated in a very, interdisciplinary, geographically distributed way. So
yeah. I mean, that's even with Endeavor. You don't have to only be a Rhode Island or a URI scientist. It could be anyone, just like you're saying, Dana. Anyone that signs up that, if they would like to use Endeavor as a platform and the schedule works, then yes, they very much can. I know we've had Woods Hole scientists that have sailed out on Endeavor as well. So this is fantastic. We actually had, pardon me?
Oh, I just said we have some now.
Yeah, I know they're on there now, right? So we have Jerry saying, imagine going to the bottom of the sea like Sylvia Earle, a real hero. Love that. Actually, but a question there. Have either of you been in Alvin from Woods Hole or gone into a submersible? Sylvia has. Oh, Dana has.
Yeah. I got to make 6 dives in Alvin over the years. And my first one was to 4,000 meters depth. Let me tell you, you got to get your mind right before you do that.
I think so, yeah.
So 6 times in Alvin, I probably participated in, hundreds of ROV dives and probably about, guessing 500 AUV dives. So I have a lot more experience on that side of the ledger, but I did get 6 dives in Alvin over the years, and it's something you'll never forget. Obviously, and we got good work done too. We weren't there for the experience, right? We were there to
you weren't a tourist. You weren't a tourist at 4,000 meters. You were there to do good work. I like that.
Yeah. So,
Melissa, do you have anything else that you would like to add to that though? You've got these 2 brilliant students behind you, I think is where they are in the lab. That any other advice that you might have, or for other students that might be interested in these opportunities?
I would just say, Dana's right that a career in STEM is really important. Get your fundamentals and stay curious and ask lots of questions. Look for every opportunity you can and try a lot of things out.
Actually, Nora and Zaria, what made you choose this class? This is kind of a different opportunity. I know kind of with your majors, I can see with engineering and wildlife conservation, it kind of meshes up, but what made you guys choose to take CSI, sign up for CSI Oceans?
I've never really been to the ocean, and I wanted to, when I first registered for the class, I didn't know we were going out to sea. And I was like, oh, that actually seems like an experience that I'd want to get, and to have more experience working with like marine research and stuff, especially if I wanted to apply to like internships later to be ready for that, and just really like want to know if I want to have that experience again.
Yeah, and then same for me. I think that getting out of like this mechanical engineering physics realm and actually being able to like do more research in different fields, I think having that experience would be amazing. And here I am on this boat, and I think that a lot of the time I'm just like, I can't believe I'm here. It's really cool. And it's totally out of my comfort zone in a way, but it's really exciting. So yeah.
Well, I commend both of you for making that leap and doing something new and different that you may not have thought of doing before or out of your comfort zone. Nora, I like that a lot. That speaks to your character, and that's something to kind of tuck away as well as you look to future opportunities. Do you think maybe that oceanography is something, or even the work that you're looking at with plastics? Do you think this is something you might weave into future research, or just keep in mind in the future?
Yeah, so something that I want to go into specifically is the field of just renewable energy and renewable energy systems. A lot of that is harnessing wave power, solar power, and geothermal like energy. So I think that oceanography, of course, would tie into that, and I think it would be really cool to make those practices more sustainable, more efficient. So that's kind of what I want to do, and I think this is like the perfect chance to do that.
Great. Zaria, what about you?
I think I'd be more focused on like kind of the ecology in the ocean, not so much like the ocean itself, but more about like the organisms that would like live there, and definitely tie in like plastic pollution within all that to like kind of find more like just find solutions for this problem for plastic pollution and stuff.
Great. Great. I think this is great. I think you guys are both inspiration to potential students that are looking to this and opportunities that they might be able to take advantage of. I know we're coming up to we've actually gone beyond the half hour, but we have such good conversation happening here with all of you engaged. But I'm going to be, I have a preference here, if possible, if Alex, you will honor me, where Melissa talked about her minion, and just because I think this brings a smile to all of our faces, where she's going to be retrieving it at 4:30 in the morning to show our audiences what exactly and how this minion works. If we could cue up that video that her daughter Antimony narrates, I think that would be an awesome way to go out, leave us on a high note, and then we'll come right back from that and say thank you to everybody. But
Sure.
Oh,
I wanted to say that this is the first time that we'll actually get to do what Antimony is describing in the movie, where we're getting data back over satellites. So I'm really excited about that. This is the first time we'll try that out on the Minion. So
fantastic.
Hello everybody. So this is my mommy's Minion, and it gets dropped from a ship into the water. Deeper and deeper and deeper it goes and goes, and then it gets deeper, and then it stops before it reaches the bottom, and then it takes the pictures, and then it drops the weight, floats back up, and then it goes back up, and then there's the data coming from that thing.
My favorite part. There's the data. I love it. And I'm so excited that you're able to do that and test that. Jerry agrees. I agree. So cute. I think we all smile every time we see that video for sure. And so the data, so what is that data that is being sent up to the satellite there?
So so far we're just sending the temperature and the pressure data back. So this is the sort of the hotel sensors on the Minion, and then we've also got images that are stored on board that we're not sending back. So we're still planning on picking up the Minion to be able to get those back.
And about how many images does it end up taking?
Gosh, over this overnight, well, we're doing a little bit of a different strategy. So I think it's only going to take about maybe 15 images overnight. But we've got it measuring temperature and pressure continuously.
Great.
So we should get lots of information about its behavior and internal waves and stuff like that.
Great. Thank you. And so then again, a note that the Minions and the mooring and the tags and then Mesobot, which Dana works with, and other tools are all part of this Ocean Twilight Zone network that's being kind of set up in the Atlantic to better understand and study this really important region of the ocean. And I'm so excited that Nora and Zaria, you guys are out at sea and able to see ocean science in action. And Dana, thank you so much for taking time this evening to share your insight and experiences with our audience as well. But thank you to everyone who's been tuning in. Hopefully you've been quiet with your questions, but maybe that's just because the conversation was so great that you were happy just to take it all in and listen. And we really appreciate that too. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening. And if you're watching a replay, definitely ask a question. We'll see those and we can feather them out to our experts and see if we can get an answer for you after the fact. That's perfectly fine as well. Otherwise, the students will be out. The ship will continue to be out at sea. Our next public broadcasts are scheduled for 12 and 5 p.m. on Tuesday, March 29th. So we hope that everybody will join us then. It'll actually be a second leg of this cruise where they're going to be looking more at acoustics in Rhode Island and Narragansett Bay or Rhode Island Bay. And then we also have school groups. If you know anyone that has a classroom group that might want to connect directly with the ship, we have those available for sign up as well on Tuesday, March 29th. Otherwise, we definitely encourage you to follow along with the Inner Space Center on social media, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for any cruise updates. I don't know if we'll spontaneously go live tomorrow. We might, but if we do, we would definitely announce it across our different social media channels. Otherwise, again, thank you, Nora, Zaria, Melissa, Dana. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody else who's tuned in live this evening. We always, again, thank you for your time. Hope you have a great evening. Hope dinner is something. Do we know what's for dinner tonight on the ship? It's always good.
We're missing it.
There's
right now.
rice, so it has to be good.
Well, let's get you guys to dinner then. I'm going to have pizza. That's what I'm having in my house. We're just having frozen pizzas. So, Dana, what's for dinner at your house?
Leftover cookout from last night.
Fantastic. There you go.
Awesome.
Well, everybody enjoy. Have a wonderful night. And thanks again.
All righty. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.